My boss was having an affair with my sister. Turns out he'd done it before. I told his wife. She turned out to be the co owner of the company and had been quietly preparing to take him down. Now he's out, she's in charge, and karma did what karma does. So, for context, I, 27F, work as an executive assistant at a mid sized marketing firm in Austin, Texas. It's a good job, decent pay, benefits, a stocked break room with actually good snacks, the works. The company culture is very work hard, play hard, and we do a lot of off the clock team building events. Think happy hours that turn into full on parties, retreats that are really just bougie Airbnb getaways with way too much tequila, etc. My boss, let's call him Jason, is the vice president of marketing. He's 42, tall, very polished, and honestly, the kind of guy people naturally gravitate toward. Jason has this whole cool dad energy, always bringing donuts for the office, remembering everyone's birthdays, and casually name dropping when he's met some obscure tech CEO in San Francisco. He's married. His wife's name is Alyssa, and I've met her maybe 3 or 4 times at company events. She's beautiful, elegant, and honestly seems way more grounded than Jason. They have 2 kids, one in middle school and the other just started high school. Every time she comes to an event, she's super nice and chats with people like she genuinely cares. I never really thought twice about them, seemed like a normal upper middle class couple with a picture perfect life. Now, here's where it gets weird. A few months ago, my little sister Emily, she's 23, moved to Austin. She just finished her undergrad degree and wanted a change of scenery. I helped her get settled, introduced her to a few of my friends, and eventually, she landed a part-time job bartending at this trendy rooftop lounge downtown. It's the kind of place that attracts money. Tech bros, startup people, and yes, a lot of our company's execs like to hang out there. One night after work, I decided to grab a drink and catch up with Emily since she was working. I get there around 9 p.m., it's already packed, and I spot her behind the bar. She sees me, waves, and gestures that she'll be with me in a minute. And then I see Jason. He's there. Not entirely shocking since this place is kind of a hotspot, but what is shocking is who he's with. A woman who is definitely not Alyssa. At first, I assumed she might be a client, maybe a coworker I didn't recognize. But the way they were acting? No way. They were sitting super close, leaning in, laughing way too hard at nothing, and she touched his knee at one point. You know the vibe when 2 people are very into each other, even if they're trying to be low-key about it? It was that. Here's the part that made my stomach drop. When the woman turned slightly to laugh, I saw her face, and it looked exactly like Emily. I thought I was hallucinating. I actually froze, trying to figure out if I was seeing things, but then Emily came over to take my drink order and saw my face. I didn't say anything at first, just kind of nodded toward Jason and his mystery date. Her smile faded. She looked down and in the most neutral voice possible said, "Yeah, I was going to tell you about that." I just stared at her. Is that who I think it is? Emily looked so uncomfortable. She leaned in and said quietly, "Don't freak out, okay? It's not what you think." My heart was racing. She took my drink order and walked away quickly, leaving me sitting there like an idiot. That night, she didn't answer my texts. The next morning, I got a one-line message. "Can we talk later? I'll explain everything. Please don't say anything to anyone at work." Now here's the thing. I'm not someone who likes drama. I don't go around stirring the pot. But this was personal. Jason is my boss. Emily is my sister. And now there's this bizarre triangle forming that I have no clue how to navigate. At work, Jason acted completely normal. Like nothing happened. Like he hadn't just been on what looked like a date with my younger sister at a bar downtown. But I started noticing small things. He'd ask me random questions about Emily. "How's your sister settling in? She's still working at that bar?" And every time he did, there was this slight smirk, like he knew something I didn't. I finally cornered Emily about a week later, and what she told me, well, I'll get into that in the next part. Let's just say it wasn't technically an affair, but it was something else entirely, and it made everything even messier. So, when I finally got Emily to sit down and actually talk, really talk, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. She came over to my apartment, curled up on my couch in a hoodie that was clearly not hers. I clocked it immediately, men's size, expensive looking, Probably Jason's, and just kind of stared at the floor for a minute. Before you say anything, she started. I didn't know who he was at first. I raised my eyebrows. Seriously? She nodded. I swear, he came in a few times, sat at the bar, super friendly, tipped well. I didn't know he was your boss. He just introduced himself as Jay. My heart was already in my throat. And what? You guys just clicked? She sighed. I mean, yeah, he's older, confident, kind of intense in a hot way. At first, it was just light flirting, but he kept coming back. One night I was closing, and he waited until the place emptied out. We started talking more personally. He asked if I wanted to go somewhere for a drink after. We went to this 24-hour diner and just talked. Nothing happened that night, but after that, it kind of spiraled. I asked her point blank if they'd slept together. She looked away. Not at first. I felt sick. Not just because of what she was saying, but because of how calm she was saying it. Not ashamed, not even defensive. Just tired. I asked her when she did find out who he was. She hesitated. Maybe the third time we met up outside the bar? Third time? I asked, completely stunned. She nodded. He told me he worked in marketing, mentioned a few clients. I connected the dots when he said he worked at Arlo and Finch. I Googled him. That's when I found out he was your boss. And you kept seeing him anyway? I couldn't hide how betrayed I felt. Emily just shrugged, and I saw tears start forming in her eyes. I didn't know what to do. I liked him, and yeah, I know how it looks, but he told me he and his wife were separated, that they were just keeping it quiet because of the kids. I let out a bitter laugh. Emily, come on, that's the oldest line in the book. I know, she snapped, but he made it sound real. He never badmouthed her, never made her the villain. He just said things were done between them emotionally, that they were just keeping up appearances. I wanted to scream, but I just sat there in silence, trying to process everything. My boss, Jason, a married man with 2 kids, was having some kind of secret thing with my little sister, and she didn't even tell me until I saw it. Then Emily dropped something that completely changed how I was viewing the whole situation. He offered to get me a job, she said quietly. I blinked. A job? Yeah, not at your company. He said that would be too obvious, but he said he knew people, said I was smart and creative and that he could make things happen for me. I stared at her. So now he's your sugar daddy? She flinched hard. No, it wasn't like that. He never gave me money or anything. Just little things. A gift card here, an Uber to my place when it was late, that hoodie when I forgot my jacket. I pointed at it. That hoodie? She nodded. Yeah, I didn't even mean to wear it here. I just grabbed something comfy. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe she wasn't being taken advantage of. But deep down, I had a gut feeling this wasn't just some impulsive fling. Jason was too careful, too smooth. If he was doing this with my sister, he'd probably done it before. With other women. Maybe other young women. Maybe even other coworkers' family members. The more I thought about it, the more things at work started clicking into place. He'd gotten weirdly involved in planning the summer retreat this year. Way more hands-on than usual. Guess where it was? A lakeside resort with private cabins. Guess who he casually asked me to invite last minute as extra help for the event coordination? Yep, Emily. She hadn't gone, by the way. Said she had a bad feeling. At the time, I chalked it up to nerves, but now it felt a lot more calculated. I started watching Jason more closely at work. Not just how he acted with me, but with everyone. And I realized something else. He never really talked about his wife. Not in the way most people with families do. Never any complaints, but also never any anecdotes. No, my wife said this funny thing, or we took the kids here over the weekend. It was like she just didn't exist. And yet, at the 1 or 2 events she did attend, they put on a perfect show. Hand-holding, matching outfits, post photos for the company's social media page. A few coworkers would even comment, they're like couple goals. It was all fake. I started spiraling. Should I report him? To HR, to his wife? Should I try to fix things between him and Emily? What would that even look like? And then came the kicker. I was walking to my car one night, late after a quarterly meeting, and I noticed Jason sitting alone in the courtyard near the side parking lot, scrolling through his phone with this weird expression. I don't even know why I looked over his shoulder. Maybe I was being nosy. Maybe I was just looking for confirmation that I wasn't crazy. But what I saw made my blood run cold. He wasn't texting Emily. He was messaging another girl, someone named Katie. The chat preview was visible and it was flirty, grossly familiar. And he was using the same exact lines he'd used on Emily, word for word. I recognized them because Emily had told me, word for word, what he'd said that first night they went out. I backed away quietly and drove home in silence, my brain racing. This wasn't just about my sister. This was something much bigger. Jason had a pattern, a very intentional, very dangerous one, and I had a decision to make. So, after I saw the messages to Katie, I couldn't unsee it. It confirmed what I'd started to suspect. Jason wasn't just having a sketchy fling with my sister. He was running a full-on operation. Multiple women, the same manipulative tactics, probably the same fake story about being separated from his wife. I was furious. Not just for Emily, but for every girl out there thinking he was serious. I didn't sleep that night. I started doing some digging, went full Reddit detective mode. I found the Katie girl. Instagram made it easy. She was a barista downtown, 22, artsy, very into yoga and books and film photography. She'd tagged the rooftop bar a few times, so clearly that's where Jason found her too. I kept scrolling. One photo caught my attention. It was her and another girl, different girl, same age range, captioned, "Girls' night out kissy face." And guess what? That other girl, she worked in our office. Not even a full-time employee, just a summer intern. She'd left 3 months ago to go back to school. Her name was Megan, and she'd mentioned briefly that she was thinking about going into marketing, and that someone from Arlo and Finch was mentoring her. At the time, I'd thought nothing of it. Now, I felt sick again. It was a pattern, a disgusting, deliberate one. Jason was targeting women in their early 20s, young, bright, underpaid, trying to make it, and spinning the same web. "I'm separated, but it's complicated. You're different. I believe in your potential, and let me help you." It wasn't just cheating, it was predatory. And the worst part, he was so careful about it that there was no smoking gun, no explicit photos on company devices, no emails, nothing that HR would move on without an official complaint. So I decided to make one, but not to HR, to Alyssa. It took everything in me to write that email. I kept it respectful, not accusatory. I explained who I was, what I'd seen, what I hadn't seen but suspected. I attached screenshots of public Instagram posts, nothing illegal, just enough to raise questions, and included the exact dates Jason had met with Emily, including that night at the bar when I'd seen them together. I didn't tell Emily. I figured if Alyssa ignored it, I'd spare her the embarrassment. But Alyssa did not ignore it. 2 days later, Jason didn't show up to work. That never happened. He was the type who came in even when he was sick, just to show face. People started whispering, "Is he on vacation? Family emergency?" It was neither. Because that same afternoon, Emily called me, sobbing. "He told her everything," she cried. "She showed up at my apartment in person, just knocked on the door." "Wait, what?" "Alyssa came to your place?" I asked, heart pounding. Yes, she was calm, scary calm. She just asked if she could talk. Said she didn't want to scream, didn't want to fight, just wanted the truth. And I gave it to her, everything. I didn't even know what to say. Emily said Alyssa had actually thanked her. Told her she wasn't mad, just disappointed. Told her she wasn't the first. Then said she'd been gathering evidence for months. Jason had slipped up before, but never like this. Emily was the first one willing to admit it to her face. Then, the final twist. Emily told me, voice shaking, she wasn't just his wife, she's part owner of the company. What? Yeah, she co-founded it with him. Before they had kids, they built it together. That's when the pieces fell into place. Why Alyssa always showed up so polished at events. Why Jason never talked about her at work. Why no one ever questioned him. Because she was quietly holding half the power. 3 days later, Jason was officially stepping down to pursue personal projects. That's the line they gave in the company-wide email. But everyone knew. especially when Alyssa walked into the office 2 days after that in a crisp pantsuit, took his old office, and didn't so much as mention his name. I found out from another exec later that Jason had been cut out of the company completely. Not just fired, bought out. Alyssa had pushed it through with the board's support. She'd known about the affairs for a while, had been biding her time, gathering leverage. All she needed was someone to confirm it to her face. And Emily gave her exactly that. As for Emily, things got messy for a bit. She felt betrayed, embarrassed, and honestly, kind of lost. But over time, she started to get herself together. She cut contact with Jason immediately. She quit the bar job and started taking graphic design classes. Alyssa even reached out a month later, not to forgive her, not to be friends, but to offer her a contact at a design agency. "You've got talent," she wrote. "Don't waste it on men like Jason." And me? I'm still at the company, working for Alyssa now. And let me tell you, she runs the place like a queen, graceful, professional, ice cold when she needs to be. Sometimes I still think about Jason, about how he had everything: family, career, power, and threw it away because he couldn't stop himself from chasing young women he thought would never speak up. But someone always does. Eventually.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit notifications, and if you like this video, press like button. See you in next Deep Reddit videos.